I used to be a shadow in an office where nobody knew my name unless they needed coffee. 3 weeks after I walked out, the CEO lost his position. The company faced internal investigation, and my confession video hit 10 million views. They called me dramatic. They called me ungrateful. They called me everything except what I really was. Someone who'd been recording every single moment of their abuse for an entire year without them knowing. This is how I burned down a PR empire with nothing but the truth they tried so hard to bury. My name is Emma Lowell. And at 29, I was invisible. Not metaphorically, literally. In the gleaming halls of Harlington West PR, one of New York's most prestigious communications firms, I existed solely as a function, the coffee fetcher, the schedule keeper, the blame absorber. For 2 years, I occupied a desk tucked behind a pillar on the 14th floor, strategically positioned where executives could summon me without actually having to see me. The office was a monument to toxic ambition. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Madison Avenue. Italian marble gleamed underfoot, and the air perpetually smelled of expensive cologne and barely concealed contempt. Every morning, I'd watch the real employees, the ones with business cards that didn't say administrative assistant, stride past my desk without acknowledgement. They wore their indifference like Armani suits. My direct supervisor, Carla Dean, had perfected the art of workplace cruelty. A woman who'd climbed the ladder by pulling other women off it. She wielded her senior VP title like a weapon. She'd call me sweetie in meetings while assigning me personal errands that had nothing to do with my job description. Dry cleaning pickups during blizzards. Waiting in line for her prescription refills. Once, she made me drive to 3 different stores to find a specific brand of alkaline water because the pH balance affects her creativity. The men in the office treated me like furniture, useful when needed, otherwise ignorable. Our CEO, Richard Hartley, would snap his fingers when he wanted coffee, never making eye contact. The mail account executives would dump their expense reports on my desk at 4:59 p.m., knowing I'd have to stay late to process them. They'd laugh about their weekend conquests by the water cooler, voices carrying clearly to my desk, as if I were deaf as well as invisible. But it was the systematic erasure that hurt most. I'd spend weeks preparing comprehensive research for client pitches, only to watch Chad or Brad or whoever present my work as their own. When campaigns succeeded, my contributions vanished from the narrative. When they failed, suddenly everyone remembered my involvement. The Pemberton account disaster? That was Emma's research failure. Despite my reports clearly warning against the strategy they'd chosen to pursue anyway, I joined Harlington West, bright-eyed and passionate about public relations. I had a communications degree from Columbia, student loans that felt like a mortgage, and dreams of shaping narratives for major brands. Instead, I became fluent in a different kind of communication, the language of subtle humiliation, professional gaslighting, and institutional discrimination. The other women in the office had learned to survive by becoming complicit. They'd roll their eyes sympathetically when Carla berated me in public, but never spoke up. During my first year, another assistant named Maria had tried to file an HR complaint about workplace harassment. She was gone within a month. Her departure explained as pursuing other opportunities. The message was clear: conform or disappear. My family needed my income. My father's medical bills from his cancer treatment had drained their savings. My younger sister was finishing nursing school. Quitting felt like selfishness, so I endured. I smiled when they called me the wrong name. I apologized for mistakes I didn't make. I became an expert at being small, but I also became something else, a documentarian. It started innocently, keeping a journal to preserve my sanity. Writing down the daily indignities helped me feel less crazy. Then one day, after Carla screamed at me for booking a conference room that she'd told me not to book, I had the email proving she'd requested it. I started saving screenshots. Emails where executives discussed employees in degrading terms. Meeting recordings where our HR director advised me to be less sensitive about racial jokes. Voice memos of Carla admitting she'd never promote women because they just get pregnant and leave anyway. For 1 year, I built an archive, not out of calculated revenge, but from a desperate need to prove to myself that I wasn't imagining the toxicity, that the gaslighting hadn't worked, that what was happening in this gleaming tower of success was wrong. They never suspected the invisible girl was watching, recording, waiting. The cuts came daily, each one precise and calculated. February 3rd. A blizzard warning had shut down half of Manhattan, but Carla needed her specific salad from a restaurant 20 blocks away. "It's just a little snow, sweetie," she'd said, not looking up from her phone. I spent 40 minutes battling wind that felt like knives. My coat soaked through, only to return and find she'd already ordered sushi. The salad went in the trash. Oh, I changed my mind. You understand. March 15th, the Brennan Industries presentation. 3 weeks of my life condensed into 50 slides of market analysis and strategic recommendations. I'd identified a critical flaw in their current PR approach, backed by data I'd gathered through hours of research. In the meeting, Dylan Mitchell presented my work verbatim while I sat in the corner taking notes. When the client praised the insights, Dylan smiled. "Just my natural instinct for these things." Carla nodded approvingly. I typed the meeting minutes with shaking hands. April 2nd, the Gibson account imploded. Their product launch had failed spectacularly, exactly as my preliminary report had predicted. But my report had mysteriously vanished from the shared drive. In the emergency meeting, fingers pointed everywhere until they landed on me. Emma was supposed to flag these concerns, Richard Hartley said, his voice dripping disappointment. I opened my mouth to protest, to mention the email I'd sent with my analysis, but Carla cut me off. "We'll discuss your performance later, Emma." The gaslighting was masterful. They'd move my deadlines without telling me, then act shocked when I missed them. They'd give verbal instructions that contradicted their emails, then insist I'd misunderstood. Once, Carla told me to cancel a client dinner, then screamed at me in front of the entire office for sabotaging client relationships. When I showed her the text message with her instructions, she laughed. "That's clearly photoshopped. Are you having a breakdown, sweetie?" My work friends, I'd thought they were friends, revealed their true colors one by one. Sarah from accounts would sympathize over coffee, then report our conversations to Carla. "Emma seems really stressed," she'd say, voice full of false concern. Maybe this environment isn't right for her. Marcus, who I'd helped land his biggest client, started calling me emotional Emma after I'd cried once, in the bathroom after a particularly brutal meeting. The betrayal that cut deepest came from Jenna. We'd started on the same day, two eager graduates ready to conquer New York PR. We'd shared lunches, apartment hunting horror stories, dreams of running our own firm someday. But when a junior account executive position opened up, Jenna knew exactly how to secure it. She told Carla I'd been badmouthing the company to clients. The accusation was so absurd I laughed, which they took as confirmation of my instability. My journal became my lifeline. Every night, I'd document the day's humiliations in excruciating detail. Times, dates, witnesses. I started using my phone's voice recorder during meetings, slipping it into my pocket when the abuse began. Legal? Questionable? Necessary? Absolutely. New York was a one-party consent state. I'd checked. The emails were the most damning. Richard discussing how to phase out the older women without triggering lawsuits. Carla forwarding resumes with comments like, "too ethnic," or "looks like a mom type." The HR director sharing salary information that showed women earning 30% less than men in equivalent positions, with a note saying, "Let's keep this between us." My breaking point came in pieces. Stress hives that makeup couldn't cover. Panic attacks in the supply closet. My doctor prescribing anxiety medication, then increasing the dosage. My mother asking why I looked so thin. My father worrying about the flat tone in my voice. My sister joking that I was becoming a ghost. She wasn't wrong. I was disappearing, one day at a time. But I was also building something in the shadows. A record. Evidence. Proof that I wasn't crazy, wasn't weak, wasn't too sensitive for the corporate world, as Carla loved to suggest. Every saved email, every recorded conversation, every screenshot felt like a small act of rebellion. They thought I was nothing, just another replaceable assistant who'd eventually break and quit quietly like all the others. They had no idea that their invisible girl was constructing their downfall, one humiliation at a time. I wasn't planning revenge. Not yet. I was just trying to survive, to hold on to some shred of truth in a place built on beautiful lies. But sometimes survival looks like patience. Sometimes it looks like silence. And sometimes it looks like pressing record. The holiday party was supposed to be elegant. Harlington West had rented the Rainbow Room, 65 floors above the city, where Manhattan glittered like scattered diamonds below. I wore my only cocktail dress, black, conservative, invisible. Perfect for blending into the background while serving champagne to people who earned my annual salary in bonuses. December 18th, 9:47 p.m. I remember the exact moment everything changed. Richard Hartley clinked his Waterford crystal glass, gathering the attention of 200 employees and clients. The speech started predictably: profits up, expansion plans, gratitude for the team. Then his expression darkened. However, he paused dramatically. We need to address the elephant in the room, the Maximilian Group disaster. My stomach dropped. Maximilian had been our biggest client, a luxury hotel chain worth millions in annual billings. They'd fired us last month after a disastrous campaign that had promised authentic urban experiences but delivered tone-deaf messaging that Twitter had eviscerated. I'd warned against the approach in 3 separate memos. This failure, Richard continued, his eyes scanning the room, falls on one person's shoulders, someone who clearly doesn't understand the caliber of work we produce here. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. Suddenly, I was visible. 200 pairs of eyes found me holding a tray of empty glasses. Emma Lowell. Carla's voice cut through the silence. She'd materialized beside Richard, her red dress making her look like spilled blood against the white tablecloth. Your research misled the entire creative team. Your inability to grasp our client's vision cost this company $1 million account. The room held its breath. Someone actually gasped. I stood there, tray, trembling, as Carla continued her performance. We've tried to mentor you, to help you rise to Harlington West standards. But some people, she sighed theatrically, simply don't belong in this industry. The champagne flute slipped from my tray, shattering on the marble floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot. I knelt to clean it up, habit, always cleaning their messes. And that's when I felt it. The snap. 2 years of bending finally broke something inside me. I stood up slowly, left the broken glass on the floor, and looked Carla directly in the eyes. You're right, I said, my voice steadier than my hands. I don't belong here. The elevator ride down felt like descending from hell. In the lobby, I texted my sister. I'm done. She replied immediately, finally. That night, I sat in my Brooklyn studio apartment with my laptop and a bottle of wine I'd been saving for a special occasion. This qualified. I opened the folder I'd labeled Insurance, 15 gigabytes of recordings, emails, videos, and documents. Evidence of 2 years of systematic abuse, discrimination, and corruption at one of New York's most respected PR firms. But evidence wasn't enough. I needed strategy. Impact. The kind of narrative Harlington West would understand. That's when I remembered Daniel Vega. Daniel had been a tech journalist who'd hired Harlington West to manage PR for his startup. I'd been assigned to his account, too small for the real publicists to bother with. Over 6 months, I'd helped him navigate media interviews, refine his message, and eventually secure coverage in TechCrunch. When his startup sold for 8 figures, he'd sent me a personal thank you note. You saved my company, he'd written. If you ever need anything, I owe you one. Carla had taken credit for the success, of course, but Daniel knew the truth. I drafted the email 3 times before hitting send. Daniel, I'm cashing in that favor. I have a story that needs to be told. Are you interested in the biggest workplace scandal to hit Madison Avenue? His response came in 12 minutes. Call me. Now. The conversation lasted 2 hours. I shared select pieces of evidence, enough to prove I wasn't just a disgruntled employee, not enough to show my full hand. Daniel's connections in digital media ran deep. He knew exactly how to make something go viral, how to ensure maximum impact. "We need video," he said. "Documents are great for lawsuits, but video changes public opinion. Can you create something that shows who these people really are?" I looked at my laptop screen, at the folder containing hundreds of hours of audio. "I can do better than that," I said. "I can show exactly who they are, in their own words." We strategized until dawn. The plan was surgical. Launch on a Tuesday morning when engagement peaked, seed it through specific influencer networks. Ensure legal protection through careful editing. Daniel would handle the media connections. I would create the content. "Are you sure about this?" he asked before we hung up. "Once this goes live, there's no taking it back. They'll come for you." I thought about Carla's smirk as she blamed me for Maximilian, Richard's dismissive finger snapping. 2 years of being erased, minimized, humiliated. "They already came for me," I said. "They just didn't finish the job." I submitted my resignation letter at 6 a.m. Monday morning, effective immediately. No 2 weeks' notice, no explanation. Just, "I resigned from my position at Harlington West PR, effective immediately. Emma Lowell." Then I got to work on the video that would end them. Tuesday, December 21st, 9 a.m. EST. I hit upload. The video was 11 minutes and 43 seconds of pure, unfiltered truth. No fancy editing, no dramatic music, just a black screen with white text reading, "What happens when you give Madison Avenue's elite a microphone and they forget you're recording?" Then their voices began. Richard Hartley discussing the diversity problem. "We need more minorities in the lobby, makes us look progressive. But keep them out of client meetings. Our demographics don't respond well to that." Carla Dean on maternity leave. "I swear to God, if one more woman gets knocked up, I'm only hiring men. At least they can't use their uterus as an excuse for poor performance." The HR director on wage gaps. "Of course we pay women less. They're grateful just to be here. The pretty ones especially. They know what kind of industry this is." Each clip was time-stamped, contextualized, irrefutable. I'd edited out any identifying client information, any legally problematic content. What remained was pure character revelation, the ugliness behind the glamour. I ended with my own voice, face obscured, telling my story. The coffee runs in blizzards. The stolen credit, the public humiliation, the systematic destruction of young women who dared to have ambitions. "I'm not the first," I said. "I won't be the last. But I'm the one who hit record." Corporate Reckoning went live on TikTok at 9:01. Daniel had been right about the platform. By 9:15, the first shares started. By 9:30, comments were pouring in. By 10, someone had cross-posted to Twitter. The momentum was organic wildfire. Office workers sharing their own horror stories in the comments. Former Harlington West employees emerging from the shadows with corroborating experiences. Harlington scandal started trending by noon. My phone exploded, unknown numbers, former colleagues, reporters. I'd anticipated this. Airplane mode engaged, new SIM card ready. The only number I kept active was my Google Voice for Daniel. "Holy shit," he texted. "CNN just called me." The video has 2 million views. By 3 p.m., it had reached 5 million. News outlets picked it up. First, the trades, then mainstream media. PR firms' dirty secrets exposed in viral video. The headline screenshots flooded social media. Harlington West's response was predictably disastrous. Their first statement, released at 4 p.m., reeked of legal panic. The anonymous video circulating contains illegally recorded conversations taken out of context. Harlington West maintains the highest standards of professional conduct and is exploring all legal options against this defamatory content. The internet's response was swift and merciless. Taken out of context, became an instant meme. Someone auto-tuned Richard's racist comments into a remix. TikTok creators began sharing their own workplace recording tips. The hashtag evolved. Harlington scandal became Salchistuch corporate reckoning. By evening, the video had spawned a movement. Instagram stories flooded with anonymous confessions from agency workers worldwide. LinkedIn, typically corporate PR's safe space, erupted with professionals sharing discrimination experiences. The New York Times reached out for comment. At 8 p.m., my personal information leaked. Some digital detective had connected the dots. The timeline of the resignation, insider knowledge of the company, writing style analysis. Emma Lowell is corporate reckoning spread across Twitter. My locked Instagram gained 50,000 follower requests in an hour. My LinkedIn inbox filled with interview requests, job offers, and death threats. Carla's flying monkeys emerged, trying to discredit me with old photos, fabricated stories, anything to shift the narrative. But something unexpected happened. The internet protected me. For every attack, 10 supporters emerged. Former Harlington West employees confirmed my stories. Journalists who'd worked with me vouched for my professionalism. Women who'd never met me shared how the video had inspired them to document their own workplace abuse. Daniel called at midnight. "You need to see this." He sent a link. The video had crossed 10 million views. But more importantly, Harlington West's stock price had dropped 12% in after-hours trading. 3 major clients had announced they were reviewing their partnerships. The New York State Department of Labor had issued a statement about opening an investigation. "You did it," Daniel said. "You actually fucking did it." But I hadn't done anything yet. This was just the beginning. My laptop dinged with an encrypted message from a username I didn't recognize. "I'm Richard Hartley's executive assistant. I have 3 years of recordings. Let's talk." Then another. "Former HR coordinator here. I have documentation of every discrimination complaint that was buried." And another. "Current employee. There's an all-hands meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Richard's going to blame everything on Carla. I'll be recording." I smiled in the dark of my apartment, the city lights casting shadows on my wall. They'd made me invisible for 2 years. Now, I was everywhere. The revolution would be recorded. The empire fell in stages, each collapse more spectacular than the last. Wednesday morning, Richard Hartley stood before his employees in the agency's main conference room. Someone live-streamed it. His hands shook as he gripped the podium, designer suit unable to hide the sweat stains spreading under his arms. "These malicious attacks on our company culture are unfounded," he began. "We've always prided ourselves on—" "Bullshit," someone shouted from the back. Then another voice. "We all know what you said." The meeting devolved into chaos. Half the room walked out. The other half stayed to watch Richard's PR-trained composure crack like ice under pressure. By noon, Hartley meltdown was trending. The whistleblowers I'd connected with delivered a coordinated strike. Richard's assistant released emails showing he'd used company funds for personal expenses, private jets to golf tournaments, 5-figure dinners charged as client entertainment with only his mistress present. The former HR coordinator uploaded a spreadsheet, 47 discrimination complaints over 5 years. All marked resolved internally with payoffs and NDAs. Thursday brought the board's emergency meeting. Photographers camped outside Harlington West's building, capturing every suited figure who scurried past. Inside sources reported screaming matches, blamed past like hot potatoes, alliances crumbling faster than week-old cookies. The first sacrifice came Thursday evening. Harlington West announces the immediate suspension of CEO Richard Hartley pending internal investigation. The statement was clinical, distancing, exactly what I'd have written for a client in crisis. Except this time, they were the crisis. Carla tried to save herself with a Facebook post, a masterclass in manipulation. She claimed to be a victim too, forced to enforce toxic policies by male leadership. As a woman in a patriarchal industry, she wrote, I often had to make impossible choices. The internet's response was savage. Screenshots of her worst emails flooded the comments. Former employees shared stories of her particular brand of cruelty. Someone leaked security footage of her throwing a laptop at an intern. Within hours, she deleted all her social media accounts. Friday's news cycle brought fresh hell. The Department of Labor announced a formal investigation into wage discrimination. 3 major clients, including Maximilian Group, ironically, publicly terminated their contracts. Harlington West's stock price plummeted 30%. But the killing blow came from an unexpected source. Miranda Hartley, Richard's daughter, posted a TikTok. She was 22, a recent Columbia graduate who'd watched her father's empire from the inside. Her video was simple, just her, talking to the camera, no edits or filters. "My father taught me that power meant never apologizing," she said. "That success required stepping on others. I watched him destroy people over lunch like it was nothing." Emma Lowell was just another name on his list of casualties. But she did what I never had the courage to do. She showed the world who he really is. The video went nuclear. Richard Hartley, destroyed by his own daughter. The headlines wrote themselves. By Monday, the dominoes had finished falling. Richard Hartley, forced to resign, under investigation for embezzlement. Carla Dean, terminated for cause, her reputation so toxic that recruiters wouldn't return her calls. The HR director, quietly dismissed. Her LinkedIn now showing, seeking new opportunities. The building security footage from that week showed a mass exodus. Employees carrying bankers' boxes, some crying, others looking relieved. The Glassdoor reviews poured in, years of suppressed truth finally finding daylight. Media requests flooded my inbox. Good Morning America, 60 Minutes. Every podcast with a microphone and an opinion. Publishers wanted book deals. Production companies pitched documentaries. Everyone wanted to package my pain into consumable content. I gave one interview, to Daniel, published on his platform. "What's next for you?" he asked. "I'm not sure," I admitted. For 2 years, I was nobody. Now everyone wants me to be their symbol, their spokesperson, their success story. "What do you want to be?" I thought about it. Employed, respected, visible on my own terms. The interview went viral too, but differently. No sensationalism, just truth. It led to real conversations about workplace dignity, about the thousands of invisible employees holding up toxic empires, about the cost of silence. A week later, I sat in a Brooklyn cafe, laptop open, building something new. My inbox had hundreds of messages from people sharing their stories, asking for advice, seeking solidarity. I'd accidentally become what I'd never had, a voice for the invisible. Across the cafe, a young woman in an ill-fitting blazer sat alone, typing furiously, obviously upset. I recognized the look, fresh professional wounds, the kind Harlington West specialized in inflicting. I closed my laptop and walked over. "Bad day at work?" She looked up, eyes red. "How did you know?" "Experience," I said. "Want to talk about it?" She glanced at my face, recognition dawning. "Oh my God, you're Emma Lowell. You're the one who—" "I'm the one who got tired of being nobody," I said. "Just like you might be." We talked for 2 hours. She worked at another prestigious agency, another toxic culture, another Carla making her life hell. But now she knew she wasn't alone, wasn't crazy, wasn't powerless. "Record everything," I told her before we parted. "Document it all, not for revenge, for proof, for sanity. For the day you decide you've had enough." She nodded, understanding flooding her face. The empire had fallen, but the revolution was just beginning. January became my rebirth month. The viral storm had settled into something more sustainable, a movement that didn't need my face to survive. I launched the Invisible Employees Project, a blog documenting workplace toxicity with the tagline, "Your story matters, even if they pretend it doesn't." The response overwhelmed my small Brooklyn apartment, hundreds of emails daily, each carrying another story of workplace abuse. Administrative assistants, interns, receptionists, mailroom workers. All the people who kept companies running while being treated like furniture. I read everyone, responded when I could, published the most powerful with permission. My YouTube channel started simply. No fancy equipment, just me at my kitchen table with a ring light I'd bought on sale. The first video, How to Document Workplace Abuse Without Getting Caught. 2 million views in 3 days. The comments section became a masterclass in collective wisdom. Lawyers offering pro bono advice. IT workers explaining recording apps. Survivors sharing their victories. You saved my life. One comment read, I thought I was going insane until I saw your story. I never wanted to be an influencer. The word felt hollow after years of crafting other people's fake authenticity. But this was different. This was necessary. Each video addressed real problems. Understanding your rights. When HR isn't your friend. Building your exit strategy. Recognizing gaslighting at work. The speaking invitations started in February. First, small women's groups and local organizations, then universities, then conferences. I turned down most of them. The irony of becoming a commodity wasn't lost on me. But some audiences mattered. The night I spoke to 200 administrative assistants at a professional development conference, half the room cried, the other half took notes. They want us to stay quiet, I told them. They count on our financial desperation, our imposter syndrome, our fear of being labeled difficult. But silence is their weapon, not ours. My inbox became a confessional. A creative director at a fashion magazine documenting sexual harassment, a janitor at a law firm recording partners' racist jokes, a personal assistant whose boss had been stealing her ideas for years. I connected them with lawyers, journalists, each other. Networks formed organically, invisible employees making themselves seen. The corporate world noticed. Companies started hiring consultants to address culture issues. Some meant it. Most were performing damage control. I could tell the difference by their first question. The real ones asked, how do we fix this? The performers asked, how do we make this go away? In March, an unexpected email arrived. The sender identified herself as a current Harlington West employee, one of the few survivors of the purge. The agency was restructuring. She wrote, new leadership, new policies. They wanted to hire me as a consultant to help rebuild their culture. I laughed until I cried. Then I crafted my response. Thank you for reaching out. My consulting rate for companies that publicly humiliated me is $10,000 per hour, with a 100-hour minimum. I require payment upfront, a public apology in the New York Times, and every meeting must be recorded for my YouTube channel. I'm sure you understand. Trust needs to be rebuilt. They didn't respond. I posted the exchange on Twitter. Another 1 million views. The book offers came in waves. Publishers wanted the full story, the behind-the-scenes drama, the inspirational journey from victim to victor. I turned them down. My story wasn't for sale, it was for sharing. Instead, I created free resources, template emails for documenting abuse, guides for building evidence files, lists of employment lawyers who actually gave a damn by April. The Invisible Employees Project had become something bigger than me. Regional chapters formed. Support groups met in coffee shops and library conference rooms. A tech developer built an app for secure documentation of workplace incidents. Pro bono lawyers created a network for those who couldn't afford justice. But the hate came too. Death threats from men who saw me as everything wrong with cancel culture. Former Harlington West employees who'd thrived in toxicity and blamed me for their lost playground. Carla Dean's lawsuit threats, empty but exhausting. Companies blacklisting me from industries I'd never wanted to enter anyway. Aren't you scared? My sister asked during a family dinner. Of what they might do. They already did it, I said. For 2 years, they tried to erase me. Now I'm too visible to disappear. The speaking engagement at Columbia hit different, standing in the same halls where I'd dreamed of PR greatness, facing 200 students who still believed in corporate fairy tales. I told them the truth. The industry would try to break them. Some would become complicit, some would break, but some would remember they had choices. Document everything, I concluded. Not because you're planning revenge, but because someday you'll need to remember the truth. They'll try to make you doubt your own experience. Don't let them. After the talk, a young woman approached. Confident posture, designer clothes, the kind of polish Harlington West would have loved. I have an internship at Harlington West this summer, she said. Or I did. I just declined it. Because of me. Because of me, she corrected. I want more than being invisible. That night, I updated my LinkedIn. No longer former administrative assistant at Harlington West PR. Now, founder. The Invisible Employees Project. Making workplace dignity visible. The revolution had found its voice. It sounded like thousands of people saying, "Not anymore." The final act came in May. When Carla Dean decided to resurrect herself, she'd been silent for months, letting the scandal fade from headlines. But Carla had always been a strategist. She chose her moment carefully, a Wednesday afternoon, prime news cycle. Exclusive interview with a sympathetic podcaster known for redemption stories. I was a victim too, she said, voice breaking with practiced emotion. The pressure from male leadership, the impossible standards. Emma Lowell targeted me because I was an accessible scapegoat. She edited those recordings to remove context. She ruined my life for views. Within hours, Carla's side started trending. Some bought it. There's always an audience for contrarian takes. She painted herself as a feminist icon destroyed by another woman. The gaslighting was Olympic level. I watched from my Brooklyn apartment, feeling that familiar rage bubble up. My phone buzzed with messages from supporters, lawyers, journalists wanting my response, but I had something better than words. I had the unedited recordings, including one Carla didn't know existed. A full staff meeting from October where she'd stood at the conference table and delivered a 20-minute monologue about weeding out the weak. Where she'd laughed about a former assistant's mental breakdown. Where she'd specifically said, Emma's exactly the kind of pathetic girl who thinks documenting everything will protect her. She has no idea who she's dealing with. I uploaded it without commentary. Just the raw audio. 43 minutes of Carla being exactly who she'd always been. No edits, no cuts, just truth. The internet did the rest. Her podcast appearance became a meme. Split screens of her crying about being misunderstood next to her calling employees worthless cattle. The interviewer posted an apology. Carla's side morphed into Beziehung Carla's lies. But the best response came from an unexpected source. 17 former Harlington West employees, many who'd stayed silent during the initial scandal, released a joint statement. They detailed years of Carla's abuse, backed with their own documentation. The woman who'd built her career on silencing others finally faced a chorus she couldn't control. She deleted her newly created social media accounts within 12 hours. The last anyone heard, she'd moved to Arizona to sell real estate. Even there, her Google results followed. As for me, I stood on a different kind of stage now. The Workplace Dignity Summit in Seattle. 2,000 attendees. Mostly HR professionals and corporate leaders trying to understand how to not become the next Harlington West. I was the closing keynote. I used to be invisible, I began, looking out at the sea of faces. Not by choice, but by design. The corporate world depends on invisible people, the ones who make coffee, take notes, stay late, and never complain. We're essential, but erasable. I talked about the cost of silence, the price of complicity, the power of documentation. But mostly, I talked about visibility. How it's not given, but taken. Not earned, but claimed. They called me dramatic, vindictive, opportunistic. They were right about one thing. I was opportunistic. I took the opportunity to show the world what happens in conference rooms when invisible people are listening. I took the opportunity to give voice to thousands who'd been silenced. I took the opportunity to burn down a system that thrived on our invisibility. The standing ovation felt different from vindication. It felt like recognition. Backstage, Daniel Vega waited with champagne. Remember when you emailed me at 3 a.m., shaking with rage? I remember thinking I was destroying my life, I admitted. You were, he said, the old one. To build this, my phone buzzed. A message from the young woman at Columbia who turned down the Harlington West internship. Just started a support group on campus for administrative workers. 40 people showed up. Thank you for showing us we matter. That night, I sat by the water in Seattle, watching the sun set over Puget Sound. A couple recognized me, asked for a selfie. As they walked away, I heard one tell the other, "She's the one who recorded everything, the one who brought down that PR firm." But that wasn't quite right. I didn't bring down Harlington West. They brought down themselves. I just turned on the lights. My phone rang, an unknown number. But I answered. Ms. Lowell, this is the Senate Committee on Labor Relations. We're holding hearings on workplace discrimination and retaliation. We'd like you to testify. I smiled at the water. Send me the details. The revolution that started with a broken champagne glass and a hidden recorder had reached the halls of power, and I was just getting started. I opened my laptop and began typing my next blog post. They thought I was nobody. They were wrong. I wasn't nobody. I was everybody. Every assistant treated like furniture. Every intern bullied into silence. Every employee who documented abuse while being told they were crazy. I was all of them. And they were all me. And together, we're changing everything. The view counter climbed as I watched. Messages poured in from Tokyo, London, São Paulo. Invisible employees finding their voices, sharing their stories, building their own revolutions. I closed my laptop and whispered to the setting sun, I'm not a victim. I'm not a hero. I'm a consequence. The water shimmered, and somewhere in New York, another invisible employee hit record. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from. Drop a comment below, and let's connect across continents. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Have you ever felt invisible in your workplace? Have you found your voice? Your stories matter too. And this community is here to listen. Remember, document everything, trust your truth, and never let them make you invisible.